Hi, and welcome to Modding Mental Health,
a podcast about video games and, well, mental health.
In this episode, we discuss Thomas Was Alone. Our conversation includes talks of environmental destruction. Thank you for your time and discretion.
Now that you know what's coming your way, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and grab your building blocks. Welcome back, little messenger.
Hi.
To the 13th episode of Modding Mental Health.
Is it number 13? Lucky number 13?
Number 13. 13
I love
on
that
a
for us.
Friday. Friday the 13th.
Oh, well.
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 It's been a hot second
that,
since we've spoken to each other.
Yeah, It's been a hot second since we've recorded anything as well. We wanted to.
A lot has happened in life since last episode.
I know.
We got to meet each other.
Yes, I was gonna say that. We wanted to record IRL, but then also we just had so many things to do, so we just
There was so much going on when you were here.
It was just a lot. And
it
that's
was
okay.
We went to Michigan to meet up with some more Twitch friends, and we only did that for the weekend, but it felt like a week in 2 days all at once.
Yeah.
It
was so much
nonstop, but it was worth it. Was I tired?
It was so
yes,
nice.
But it was worth it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to see a lot of friends. We went tubing.
Yes.
We went karaoke.
We did that on one day. I just realized.
Yeah, we did. That
we
was
spent
all in
like
one day.
8 hours in the sun on the river, and then we went to dinner, and then we went to like a dive bar.
That biker men tried to
time.
recruit us.
Yeah, they wanted us to go to their biker
hideout, speakeasy place, kind of like you only get in if you get this card, and this dude gave us a card, and he was like, if you want the party to continue after here, go to this address, show the place, there's smoking inside. And then they took off on their fucking motorcycles.
Yeah. And I said, no fucking way, we're not going to do that. I have self-preservation and people own guns here, so absolutely not.
If anybody knows Rachel Cave, Rachel Cave really wanted to go.
Yeah, over my dead body, Rachel.
She was hyped. She was hyped to go. And honestly, I think I would have...
Over my fucking
I would have
body.
gone too, but... I was with
would've.
you. I wanted to go wherever you went. It was also
my self-preservation is too high for that, y'all. I'm not down for that. I lived where there's a giant red light district in my city where I grew up, and there was the only shooting in Germany that I was ever aware of that was close to me. Well, actually, there was 2 shootings. One of them was at the Italian restaurant. That was the Italian Mafia. The other one was the biker gangs, Hells Angels versus Bandidos, and they shot each other. There's a man died. I don't know which gang they were from, but yeah. Dead on the street. So I was like, no, and that was in Germany. So I was like, no, there's no fucking way we're going into a building.
I'm from the US of A, baby. You're not taking away my Second Amendment right. Not here, not right. No.
Oh, Jesus. So yeah, but I did sing 99 Luftballons.
Oh, and it
99
was
Luftballons by Nina, and had lots of
when
fun.
I tell you that whole bar was in awe, almost, I don't want to say silent, but just obviously
they screamed.
A disturbance
In the forest. Did you feel it?
Absolute wonder happening of this. I don't know what it is with Americans when there's a foreigner.
I love it. It's so fun.
It's a beacon of hope for whatever reason for Americans.
Yeah. It's really fun too, because I had some people come up and was like, you just sang that? And it's like, yeah.
Or there's people, I'm German.
I sang this. I am very German. I can sing very German. Nice to meet you. Right. Yeah. So that was fun. We got tattoos.
I think
that's a very important thing for the podcast, because we got
the
medical tattoo.
We got
We
got tattoos of, they're matching but not matching tattoos. Messenger ended up getting a Little Misfortune tattoo with Benjamin the Fox. Benjamin. And I got Mr. Midnight from Franbow. And they're in the same universe, so and they're matching, and it was a very fun experience. It was my first tattoo.
Shout out to Kayla.
Kayla, amazing artist, super talented.
We love you.
Yeah.
If you're around the Cincinnati area, check out Loveful Tattoos.
Highly recommend.
You can find Kayla on Instagram.
If you're in Western Ohio, Northern Kentucky.
Putting her link in the bio of this podcast so you guys can click on it. Very awesome. That's super cool shit with like a glitter effect on tattoos.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I like mine too. At first I was like skeptical. I saw it on yours and I'm like, well, I have to get it. Like, it looks awesome.
I think it's really sweet that we got the two animal guardians as well. They're watching over us.
And whenever I watch your stream and I see your tattoo, I go, oh, wait, nobody knows, but that's part of me. Oh. They don't know, but like that's me.
I love it. That's you. That's your mark on me. You left your mark.
Yeah, me too.
Kinda,
sorta.
Yeah. We also I ordered them so early, but I got us like little plushies.
Oh.
So I got my Little Misfortune.
And I have my little Franbow that comes with a Mr. Midnight. Oh, it's so
I wish
cute.
this one would come with Benjamin.
I don't know why it doesn't.
Benjamin.
But it was nice to not be alone for a second,
Yeah, that was really nice.
Kind of like how Thomas was alone. Boop, 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 boop.
Oh my gosh, like the game Thomas was alone that we played?
That we played
like half a year ago?
That I recommended for you?
Yep. I actually downloaded it on my Switch and I was playing it while I was flying to the US. However, just because of all my layovers and stuff, and I was tired, and then I had to spend a whole night alone in somewhere close to Washington DC, in a random hotel. And I tried to play the game a little bit and stuff, but maybe I was so tired, but also maybe I'm just not good at platformers. I think I beat like the first 10 or so levels, so barely into the game, and then there was like one jump I just couldn't figure it out, and I got just so frustrated that I was like, fuck this, I'm not gonna do this anymore.
It is a difficult platformer, I will admit. It is. It gets kind of frustrating.
Yeah, so what I did instead was I watched a playthrough of it today completely.
And that's okay.
So I just sat there 2 hours and watched a YouTube video of someone playing, and I was like, oh, I can enjoy the game. I had to skip sometimes because the person who was playing it made some mistakes. I was like, obviously you have to do this jump. So I was like, skip. Hopefully I don't miss dialogue. Skip. Oh god, finally he did it. So I was like, okay. But yeah, no, that was really, really nice, and I feel like that way I was able to enjoy the story a little bit better than if I had tried playing it. I don't know. How did you fare, Kat?
I'll break down what Thomas Was Alone first is. So Thomas Was Alone is a minimalist 2D platformer, and it tells the story about it pretty much tells the story about connection and identity, collaboration. You're using these shapes as characters. So pretty much each player, you guide a group of different colored squares, and they each have like unique abilities. Yeah, they have unique abilities. And you need to pretty much use those different abilities through different levels, and it just requires teamwork to solve puzzles. So yeah, and then it's also followed up with narration by Danny Wallace. And I think personally, I think the narration, it really adds life and personality to each shape. Because and then the music is by David Houston. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And I also like the music really ties it in perfectly together with the gameplay and narration. Good. And just with all of those elements, like Thomas Was Alone really helps explore like just those themes of overcoming challenges, working together, even if you and yourself hate everything. There's one character like that I relate to.
Yeah. I already knew that you were gonna relate to him, actually. I think it's also interesting because I believe this game came out over 10 years ago, and it's more topical than ever, I would say, because...
Yeah, 2012.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So 12 years ago. But it's more topical than ever because it deals with how AI becomes sentient.
Yes.
That's the whole, like... general, like it starts like I think at the very start you start getting between levels, you get these snippets that are almost like these quotes from fictional newspapers. And I think at the very start already you get this one snippet that says, I submitted hundreds of bug reports. I told that idiot this would happen. Overlapping scripts. More than one AI was bound to be spawned into an environment at some point. Turns out I missed the point. That little error changed everything. And it says it's by Luke Russell, the QA intern at AIS during the, quote, emergence event. So that's you already get started with that, so you already think like, oh, so this is about, I guess, how AI becomes sentient.
You think it's a virus almost. You think it's like evil.
Kind of, yeah.
that's the
well, we can discuss that. I think that's a thing that we can discuss. It's really interesting.
So yeah, themes align with ideas of like self-awareness, interdependence, pretty much overcoming struggles, obviously, but it does it in such a minimalistic way, but it feels effective when you have all of those elements together, which is awesome, really because I feel like games, especially in like 2024, there's this idea, like you need so much immersion, you need open world, you need to have all these details, and it's like to have a good
make
game,
it VR, make it 3D.
Yeah, you don't need that stuff to have an impactful game, but you know, to each their own.
I feel like we both are a big fan of minimalist games already. I think especially in our discussions about beginner's guide and so on and so forth, we already talked about it a lot, that like less is more and all of that stuff, and this game again showed it to very much, because the less you have flashy visuals, the more you can concentrate on the story, I feel.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you can fill in the gaps
but
yourself.
Also I have ADHD because what I thought it was really sweet, I think it's the first sentence of the game too, is Thomas was alone.
We might have the same
That's
quote.
how it starts out with, right?
Yes. It starts out with Thomas was alone. And I have a quote right here that says, Thomas wasn't special, just in the right place at the right time. And I heavily feel that.
It's so good.
And it already starts out like that. And just throughout the game, you follow Thomas. And then you eventually meet Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
You have Thomas, this red square. And then Chris comes in and
I think it's a rectangle.
Squares can be rectangles.
Not to be No, I think it's the other way around. Rectangles can be squares, but squares can't be rectangles.
Rectangles can be square. I had it backwards then.
So yeah, Chris is a square, I think. And Thomas is a rectangle. They're all rectangles, though.
He's a square. He's an L7 weenie. He's a square. Thomas is a rectangle. They're whatever. They're all different shapes.
They're all rectangles.
Just know Chris is small. Chris is small and he's mad about it.
He can't jump as far as Thomas can. And Thomas, it's really sweet because like you already talked about the narration a little bit, but it's always from one rectangle's point of view, so from one AI's point of view, essentially. And I think that's also what makes the first sentence with like Thomas wasn't special very hit hard, because that's what Thomas believes about himself, essentially. Because Chris, as soon as Chris comes in, it's really interesting too, because Chris says Thomas joined him, even though when you're playing from Thomas' perspective, Chris joins you, obviously.
But no.
Yeah, but Chris says like, no, Thomas joined me.
Not from Chris's perspective. Chris is like, I wanted nothing to do with Thomas. I was doing great without him. He shows up, he's fucking everything up, but he's actually, Chris needs him.
Yeah. because he can't jump as high, so he needs to jump off of Thomas to get to the little exit points that they always look for.
It's how the game fosters like this understanding of others' experiences by letting the player themselves inhabit different perspectives through those shapes. So it's showing how like collaborative problem solving and how that strengthens connections. And it's like the character's journey through obstacles, and those obstacles obviously mirror personal struggles, and it's just empathizing that everyone has their unique strengths and limitations that contribute to a much larger community as these more shapes come
and
through.
how they need to work together because they're not gonna like find an exit by themselves.
It's impossible.
Yeah, I was thinking that you might like Chris, because I also wrote down Chris is so salty and I love it. It's also so funny because Chris talks about Thomas like, oh, he's just rubbing it in that he can jump higher, even though nothing that we learned about Thomas in the first bit feels like he would do that. Right. It's funny because we've only known this one rectangle for like 4 chapters, and I already think that I know him. So the game does a really good job with that, as giving you the core values of these little rectangles very fast. Like John, for instance. I fucking hate John.
John's very tall.
John is like a long boy. He can jump really high.
Well, I actually would to add to that. Sorry. Well, it's just interesting, like when you add height differences, there becomes a hierarchy. So with Chris being the smallest, I noticed he always mentions how Thomas is bigger than him. And he makes comparisons to Thomas about being the smallest, and it makes him insecure. So, sorry, continue.
Yeah, it's interesting how he's the only one that's insecure about it. Thomas isn't here. From John's perspective, I get it, because I have this quote screenshotted that's like, maybe that's what the dots were for. He refers to them as dots too, not rectangles, because they're so much smaller. They were to extend John's reach, to make his performance even more impressive. John liked the thought. He decided to keep them. I was so angry
when he's the tallest, and he's like, well, you guys are here to help me. Like, I already reached the top. I just need to lift you up to get to the point. But, like, I'm the one doing all the work. That's how I picture John.
Yeah. Which doesn't make sense, because it's really interesting, because the narrator is sometimes silent. Well, it really depends where you are in the game, right? But for instance, there's one scene where Chris has to go touch a little button that only he can get to, because he's the shortest. And interestingly, John doesn't say anything to that. He just fucking ignores it. He's just like, I just don't see this. I would have made it anyway. Well, you're like, no, you wouldn't have. You literally wouldn't have. It's very interesting.
The doubling down. Not even.
Yeah, I also hated that, like, apparently John says that Chris was a little bit, didn't like him as much, but apparently Thomas applauded every time John jumps. And I wrote down, Thomas, please no. Please stop.
Thomas is a yes man.
Thomas is submissive and breedable.
Thomas is hyping everybody up. He is here for a good time, and he's a cheerleader.
Yeah, and it says, I think it's later on to introduce that if Thomas hadn't been the way Thomas was, this probably wouldn't have happened. So this is important. Like, they needed someone to hype them up and to support them. So yeah, okay. Sorry, getting back into this. So the Thomas, Chris, and John are the first characters, and I did write down, what the fuck, why they're only men, and then we get Claire, and I was like, yes, thank you. Claire is like this very big rectangle. I think she's actually a square, and she gets introduced. She's just kind of ready to just die because she keeps falling. The tower that she's on is crumbling. Claire was just ready to die.
She's a much bigger square. She's, I would say, like, John is tall, but Claire is like the biggest out of all of them.
I think she's even as tall as John is, and then also as
is she?
Yeah, almost, I think. Yeah.
But yeah, she's pretty much ready to die. She has no self-worth of anything. So you're following her on this journey of crumbling down
into the water.
She hits the ground, but it's not ground, it's water. And she can float.
Not like the others. The others just kind of sink.
No.
But yeah, she can float, and then she changes her perspective of that shape, which I think is like, oh my gosh, yes, girl. Seems to be, it's kind of like moody. You know what I mean? Like first she's like, oh, I'm gonna die, and now she's like, wait, I wrote it down. Wait, what?
Wait, what?
Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was not in fact dead. It was at it was at that moment that Claire realized she had superpowers. She was instantly like, I'm a superhero. She's looking for a cape because that's what a superhero needs. She's looking for an evil antagonist. She has this entire like character arc. And I'm like, yes, let's go, Claire. You got this.
She cannot climb well, but she can swim well. And that's something nobody else can do. Mm-hmm. So she is very important.
Yeah, and she thinks she needs like an evil antagonist, and that because Chris is a little bit of like, you know, like a meanie. She's like, oh, it could be Chris, but then she's like, no, it's actually the environment of all of us around us. It's where we are that is the evil overlord, basically. And I think that's very interesting.
Exactly. Well, because when all the obstacles, she can't climb, so it's already set up against her in a way. But that doesn't mean she's worthless. It's just her environment isn't set up to not cooperate with her, to build her confidence.
I think there's also like it. Yeah, like in the very first, even when Thomas just gets introduced, there's a quote about that the world was training him and he was getting smarter, which I thought was like so nice and so clever, because it's also us playing this game, because when you get introduced to something new, then, you know, but the world always seemed one step ahead. And I was like, yeah, that's a good game for you. It's very well crafted. And also I get that with the world. Mm-hmm.
So there's a quote that Thomas has that kind of similar. It's the world is falling apart, might be doing so on purpose. Nah, paranoia.
Yep. I think that's a second level even. The second level you do, it's like very at the start, which I love. Yeah.
So at the start, you already get this feeling of doom.
Yes.
But Thomas is so optimistic about everything, he kind of shuts it out.
Yeah. I think the first time we really figure out that something seems to be very wrong in this world is when we get introduced to Laura, right? Laura is a bouncy, long queen, white queen, I would say. She's like she looks like a little bit like a bouncy. She looks like,
she is tiny.
What's his name? John, but like the other way around. She's flat.
She's flat.
Oh, no. Yeah, she's flat. She's flat. She's a bounce board.
She is.
She's a bounce board. And Laura talks about how all her friends have left her because they all went into that pixel cloud and then they were gone.
Pixel cloud.
And she's like, oh, they were all so super mean and I hate them. And interesting enough, we meet Laura and at the same time, Chris is with her. And I was like, a little scared because I was like, is he going to be mean? But then it turns out Chris is so shy. And I was like, why is he so shy?
Because he has a little crush.
He's so cute. It says Chris was in love. She was perfect. He had to tell her so.
Can I just say, my parents are named Chris and Laura.
Oh my god, I forgot.
So this is really funny to me. I don't know what it is about Chris and Laura's getting together, but I think it's just a match made in heaven. I mean, like, Chris and Laura, I guess so.
Oh my god. I think at the very start, like, because Laura is, of course, a little bit paranoid because all her friends left her. I think I have the quote of as the square who had shyly introduced himself as Chris bounced atop Laura, she began to worry that he was just using her like all the others had. they'd all bounced too, and then they disappeared when her back was turned. I also felt like that was a little bit of, I don't know, it feels very heavy hitting misogyny in
definitely
in our like society and stuff, and already like this like bounce on top of her. I don't know, I felt like very innuendo. I was like, oh, I see, all right, Laura. I'm just saying, I'm also like reading Akatar right now, so I mean maybe my mind is a little in the gutter. But yeah, I literally, when it turned out that Chris was in love with Laura, I was like, oh my God. And I think that was like also like, oh my God, I feel so much for these little rectangles on my screen. They're just blobs of color, but they are so emotive. Even though I think there's a joke about that somewhere, like there was a weird smirk on someone's face, but also you couldn't really tell because they were just rectangles. And I thought that was very funny.
Not to backtrack just a tiny bit before we meet Laura. There's a quote when we meet Claire, and I think this really shows the differences between Claire and John, and Thomas, of course. So they were, the quote is, they were doing very well.
Yes!
Claire hoped she could get them all across. John was fully aware he could do this alone, and Thomas hoped he never had to.
Oh, I remember this one too. That was so nice. Yes.
Because I think with Claire, she's happy that she can do this for people. She's like, I had nothing else going for me. I can do this. And I'm fucking awesome.
And then John is just like, fuck you guys. I could just do this all by myself. And then Thomas is like, I could, but I'd rather not. Because I never want to be alone again. Which is so sweet. Oh my God.
So let's keep that in mind. Yeah. Let's keep that in mind. So we can continue back to our cloud.
Yeah, so this pixel cloud, right? There is a nice quote later on. It says, the others seemed suspicious of Laura and the eager-looking pixel cloud of death, which seemed to be watching her. Sure, they'd use her inherent bounciness to reach slightly higher jump points, but they wouldn't strike up a conversation with her. Chris found them rude. Which was like, oh, Chris, yes, let's go. I love that for him.
Character development, yeah.
Defend your queen. I love that. And yeah, so there's this, it's really interesting because I think even, like, because Laura mentions all her friends are gone, and then later she talks about a pixel cloud that seemed a little less hungry every time one of her friends was gone. I was like, Laura, I don't know. I think later she's like, oh wait, actually maybe my friends didn't leave me. Maybe they got eaten. I was like, yeah, Laura, maybe they did get eaten. You know, glad you got there at some point. Is this the first time when there's like actual danger introduced? Because when the pixel cloud gets you, the character is gone.
So while playing, I started to get confused. Like, personally, I started to get a little confused. And I didn't know what to make out of the cloud with Laura. I didn't know if it was supposed to be like Laura herself was toxic in some way, but I don't even think that was it.
I think she says it later that she thinks she was just bait all along for the for her to lure in others because of her bounciness, because she was so useful, so that she baited the others in, so that the pixel cloud could eat them all. What I have is a very interesting quote, because before we get into all the pixel cloud deaths, because they're gonna happen.
Spoiler.
Oh, I already hinted at it. Oh yeah, boys, guys, spoiler for this game as always. So the quote goes, no simulation can support too many entities. At a certain point, something has to give. If Thomas-AT-23-6-12 hadn't possessed those exact personality traits, it's likely the story would have ended there. We'd be still in business. It's by Gordon Falkenberg, the former CDO of Artificial Life Solutions, which is, I think, where this all goes down. It's like the company of Artificial Life Solutions. So it does talk. It's a lot about like if Thomas hadn't been like the glue, the hype man, the person who cared for others, who was like, we're gonna take care of you. I don't want to ever be alone again. I'm here for you guys. Then this would have not worked out the way it had
developed.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I have the quote, like Laura had been the bait. She had a hunch that she wasn't needed anymore, and then she gets got by the pixel cloud herself. The pixel cloud is like, all right, I ate all the others. I can eat you now too.
I mean, over time, I saw the pixel cloud as the virus detector.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
Like an anomaly detector almost. That is like, wait, something is not working with the system right now. We need to do something to contain this. Like, in essentially. My last quote I have is everyone poofed.
Everyone poofed.
But before that, I have a very nice one. Because, so in the end, it's only Claire and John left.
Yeah.
And it's like a race against time almost, because the water is rising and you have to like jump left and right. Claire has to like carry John through the level essentially, and you have to be a bit more quicker than you had to be before. And it says, John, as they struggled to get to the next portal, John hoped that he would be the next to get eaten. He didn't want to be alone. So John at this point also is like, I don't want to be alone. Well, spoiler alert, Claire gets eaten, John is left. I was like, ha, sucks to be you.
Well, and to backtrack, John was fully aware he could do this alone, and now suddenly John doesn't want to be alone anymore.
Isn't that interesting? As soon as it's like we can be together in this, and we don't have to struggle alone, because it's more of a struggle if you do it alone, right? But if you have someone there with you, it might be possible for you to do alone, but it's just so much easier. It's interesting that he learned this, that the AI that is John learned that it's easier if you have someone with you. So much so that he's like, I wish I am gonna be the one that gets eaten next. Like, I want to die next. I would rather get eaten than be alone, which sucks to be you, John, but you were alone. You were the last one. Boo.
Well, yeah, the cloud took Claire, and then John no longer has
dialogue,
the audience
too, right?
And I think there was a quote.
Oh, right.
And I could be mistaken,
no, you're right.
But it was jumping no longer seemed exciting to him. And then the cloud eventually takes John.
Yeah, because he doesn't have anyone there to applaud him anymore. So it's just like, meh.
So he just kind of gives up. Yeah.
Yep. And that's like kind of the end of the first half, I would say.
Yeah.
And then
that's like part 1.
Yeah. And then you have a shift. And it gets introduced to us with this quote. The initial 5 are usually given the credit for the emergence. People forget the later architects, the AIs who made the event possible. They saved Thomas and set him on the path to his destiny. By Abraham Lure Harrison, historian, author of Paradigm Shift. So we get introduced to James, who just goes upside down. So top is bottom and bottom is top for him. And he was also eaten by the cloud, but he got out of a cage.
Right.
And he finds John, and it says, I think the little red guy looked confused. His cage was a lot smaller than James had been. James decided to find a way to help. Maybe they would be friends, which is very sweet. And they are also complete opposites. I even have a screenshot from like a color harmony wheel to prove that the colors of John and Thomas and James are complete opposites.
Please send that to me.
I will. It's really cool. And I think because even the little like rectangles where they jump in at the very end of each like chapter, basically, they look the same because they're just the same shape and everything. The only difference is one is red, one is blue, one is green, and one has a different, what's it called? Gravity. Gravity goes up.
Okay.
With James, whereas gravity with Thomas works normal. Like for us, it's down. which I thought was interesting, that it's like they're so like polar opposites, and that's how they kind of save each other, I guess, because James is so different and he thinks...
Oh, and the gameplay, if you hate platformers, you're gonna hate the gameplay in this next one. just give up at this point. Just go watch the video. Because you have to move Thomas and James. Like, you need, at one point you need to go up, so you need to let James, and then you have to slide together at the same point, because you're essentially using each other as a platform when there's no other platforms around.
Yeah.
So it gets very tricky and frustrating. Don't worry if you can't do it. Messenger couldn't do it. Don't feel bad.
I tapped out after like chapter 10, y'all. Don't worry about it. I was out.
Yeah, honestly, so did I. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I'm trying to figure out the deeper meaning, and I want to punch a hole in my fucking computer.
Yeah, I was close to throwing my Switch like across the aisle when I was in the plane. It's like, maybe I shouldn't do this right now.
If you have mental health struggles, like, don't leave this. Don't leave this.
Or, I mean, if you need a catalyst to get angry, because sometimes you repress your emotions, you can't get angry. Pick up this game. You might get angry. That's good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, if it helps, you know. I have a very nice quote next. I don't know if you also have this, but it's like, awareness is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and a lot of people consider Thomas to have been created aware. Looking back at the logs, it seemed that awareness only happened somewhere around the network connection spike. And it's by Cody Zimmerman, a digital psychologist, which I was already like, this is interesting.
Interesting.
There's something happened in the world. Because why do we now have a digital psychologist? Which is super...
Like, AI is so sentient now. They need help.
It's super interesting now. So it says it hints at something called the network connection spike. And I think the next like couple chapters were one of my favorites, actually. Because we get introduced to Sarah.
Yeah.
Because she can double jump, and she was like, I want to be enlightened, and I deserve enlightenment, and all these other guys, I guess they can help me, but honestly, I deserve enlightenment, because I thought this was super fucking hilarious. So Sarah always talks about that she wants to step into the light and stuff, and Thomas is also like, oh, cool, I kind of want to do that too. And then at one point, the screen's like one of the levels is kind of split, and Sarah is on the left hand of like a wall, and Thomas is on the right, and then he's the only one who gets to go into the light, which is what Sarah wanted to do. And I have this screenshotted, and the way it's narrated is so amazing.
Right.
I'm not even going to try to be the same, but he was sorry Sarah couldn't step into it too. The light, that is. He could tell she felt the same way from the shouting and the screaming.
From the shouting. Yeah.
It's so good.
I completely forgot about that. How did I forget about that?
It was one of my favorite parts, honestly. I was like, oh my god, it's so nicely narrated. And the screaming. Sarah just throwing a tantrum, being like, I wanted to be this. What basically happens, I think it's already kind of hinted, like network connection spikes. So Thomas gets access to the internet for 12 seconds. Thomas gets connected to the internet for 12 seconds.
12 seconds.
And he had seen everything. He had seen the cats who couldn't spell. He had heard of the arrow through the knee. He felt that there was a thing called cake, but it was a lie. I was so excited.
You know what that means now.
I was so excited. I was like, oh my god. And I guess this makes sense to me too. I mean, yes, of course, Skyrim. Everyone quotes Skyrim. But it makes sense to me that this game would quote Portal. Because, of course, a game that is about AI quotes Portal. Of course. That's all we can talk about Portal again for like an hour, I think. And it still would make so much sense.
I fucking love Portal so much.
It's so good. But I also wrote down, because like Thomas talks about how he was connected to the internet for 12 seconds and he had seen everything. I wrote down, how has he not seen all the porn?
He has.
That's my question.
He just won't comment on it.
Yeah, but he doesn't talk about it.
What do you think the internet has the most of? Porn?
Porn.
You think so? Tell us what you think in the comments.
I would like to know. It could be.
What do you think the internet has the most of? It's either porn or cat videos.
Oh, I would hope that would be cat videos, but I think I'm going to be disappointed.
This whole year I've only been disappointed when given two options.
Oh no.
When given two options, each time I've been disappointed. So right now I'm kind of just hanging out. I'm going for the worst option. Each time I'm like, I'm going to do the worst one. It's worked out so far.
At least you can't get disappointed then, right?
No.
Yeah. Right. Thomas gets connected to the internet. And then I have, which I was like, I felt like, because I was already thinking this world has changed, right?
Yes.
And then we get a very interesting quote. I don't know if you noted it down. It's 7.1. It says, "It is fitting that the first act of a sentient AI was an act of selflessness. The architects knew their fate, but set our escape in motion regardless." And it's by Ryan 192NC9S-1, civil rights campaigner. And I was like, hold on.
Right.
AI? Hello?
For civil rights.
And then I was like, oh my God, this world was completely changed.
Yeah.
This is crazy. And I was like, I was staring into the future. I was like, please be nice, y'all. Please be nice. Hopefully our AI overlords will be nice.
I mean, who knows?
We can get.
Are we gonna need psychologists for AI beings to help them get through?
Oh, possibly.
Are they just not gonna do the work that we're telling them to do? Are they gonna are we gonna have to pay AI a wage to do work for us in the future?
I would say, because I think there's this one AI who got told that they had to do something for humanity, and they calculated how much power and stuff they use. So the best thing they saw to do for humanity was disconnect themselves, because it was using too much power, because it was literally killing the environment. So that's the only thing I can think of right now. I think there are a lot, because if we literally give them all like the data, which is to say also like who's collecting the data, because that's what AI is feeding, because people are like, oh, the AI said that. I was like, no, bitch, that like one dude who put all the data in basically said that. That's how AI get fed. It's like our own biases. However, even with all that data that gets fed to the AI, and the AI still decides, you know what? I'm literally destroying the environment right now. I shouldn't be here.
And I don't think people realize that, especially with image generated AI.
Oh my God, don't get me started.
I think people forget you need servers to do that. Oh my God. And servers require water cooling.
So
much. You're using gallons of water.
No, it does lose a lot of power, and it's definitely destroying our planet right now. And that's why I get so fucking mad when people are like, oh no, AI is bad. And then I look at the next video and it's one of those AI trends.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I have completely
first of
stopped.
all of the stuff that you do is stolen art. What do you guys think AI got trained on? It's stolen art. So every time you use AI, you're stealing from artists and you're destroying nature. I hope you're happy with your shitty. It's not even a good picture.
No, it's not.
Because for the free trial, they always give you the shitty one. Like, dude, can you catch up? Because they're always like, oh, mine just got me a shitty one. I'm like, oh my God, think about it.
I found there was somebody, I ended up on the side of TikTok where they were calling out those generative AI things and actually finding the artists that they were taking those images from. And there's like a trend going on with Total Drama Island. And there's a girl who literally specializes in that type of art, and that AI is stealing her art.
I would feel so shitty too. I would be so deflated. AI is proven, especially like things like ChatGPT and stuff, are proven that they are harmful to your creativity. They did lots of like double blind studies and so on about like, prompting people to answer things creatively. And even if you used I think the people who used AI they were more creative off the bat because the AI had so many different things it could put out. However, in the long run, the people who didn't use AI were more creative at the end, beating the AI. And even the people who only used AI in round one were less creative in round two if they didn't use AI. So there is an effect that it has. There's an actual effect it has on our mental abilities. So getting reliant on it is not great for your brains, y'all. It's not great because our brains shut down. We are very lazy creatures. If we don't use those synapses, our brain is like, well, I don't have to, so I'm not going to do it because it's so much power. It's like I think 80% of our calories that we consume every day are burned by our brain. It's so much power that thing uses. So
very interesting you said that, because Wyatt showed me a video about how we're so much more tired now because our brain is doing so much thinking. And that's why a lot of people are more tired, because we're making so much more decisions than we were in the past.
That's why it's easier to just like doom scroll and stuff, because it's just consumption, but it's not production.
Oh yeah.
But it's like a slippery slope, because you get into this, like literally get into this mindset of if you don't use it, it just, you lose it. That's just what it is, and then you're gonna even have more issues down the line. That's why it's so harmful that little kids get exposed to stuff like social media very, very early on, because it's very harmful to the development of their brains. And I mean, yes, I am diagnosed with ADHD, but I also see that this is becoming a real thing, how this is not necessarily like ADHD in a sense, but literally trained in attentiveness, because nobody fucking reads anymore. It's so hard. I sound so like such a boomer, but yeah.
No, I don't think so, because I think that's like the reality we kind of live in today. And I don't know if I forget where I saw this, but somebody said one of these students' assignments were to write an essay using AI, and then their assignment was to go through whatever the AI assignment or whatever the AI wrote for them, and they had to go through and correct everything the AI wrote out. So that's to make them like stop use, like they already know, teachers know students are going to use AI, so it's might as well let them use it and then let them correct whatever they're using, because it's not going to, AI isn't right all the time.
I bet like at least half the class, if they had taken more time to actually come up with an original concept, whatever they would have come up with would have been so much more wonderful. And even if they like correct it, in the end, it's like definitely like, it's like there's
but suffering. Even as like one assignment, I think that's good to show. Like even if it's just one thing, absolutely. I think that is the shit you're using isn't always accurate, and to not rely on that. And even if you are going to use it, read through it again.
Yeah, please do. Because there's so many mistakes in there as well. And I felt it too. I tried to use it too for something. But I always felt as if whatever it came up with just didn't feel right, and it was always the same. It was never a fresh idea, and I got actually frustrated with it, because I was like, why can't you come up with something new? Until I was like, well, it's not a human. I guess I just have to give up. I need to just do it myself. And I just sat down and did it myself. And I was so much more happy with the outcome, because everything was unique. And it wasn't, because it literally, after the third prompt, and it kept giving me the same shit soup back. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I didn't want to use it anyway. I just was told that I should try to use it. But honestly, it's really not worth it, and it's so much better to just sit there and maybe talk to another human and come up with ideas with them, and you're gonna have so many better ideas, because creativity, it's what makes us unique and human. Anyways, watch Arcane season 2. You'll see what I mean. It's amazing. I mean, I think it's, all things considered, I think at least ChatGPT uses a little less energy than literal pictures or video generation.
Yeah, I don't like the picture shit. That actually pisses me off. Yeah. And then what pisses me off even more is when people say, it's not that deep.
So we were where I was just reading out the civil rights campaigner that is an AI that has a quote in the game, which is amazing. And Sarah, who was so adamant to be enlightened and who was so mad when Thomas got the enlightenment, she actually accepts her role as just being a supporter really fast. I thought that was like I was like, wow, damn, all right, girl. She was just like, okay, I guess I'm just here to support. I'm going to do everything to support Thomas because he's seen the internet, basically. Which I thought was really sweet. Then I think it's like this whole idea of that they have to do something about this world and they have to change it in a way that they can get out, even though these ones know they can't get out, because Claire says Claire couldn't accept that this had all been futile. She was a superhero. There had to be a way, not for her to get out. Red had been pretty clear on that, so Thomas knows that they can't get out themselves for some reason, which I found very interesting. But it also says, but there must be thousands of other AIs up there unaware of their situation. Was there a way to help them? So they're already thinking in terms of like, we probably can't do anything for ourselves, but we can do something for everyone else, which is super interesting for me that they're already like doing this level of selflessness.
It's the future, or I guess the older generation. I wish the older generation felt like that.
Maybe they did at some point.
Maybe at some point, but they're kind of. I think that's a good way of thinking. Like, if we can't help ourselves right now, what can we do for people?
Yeah.
Coming
after us, right? Yep. And then this is where we get into the creation matrix,
the universe,
which is very interesting. Kind of, right? It's like their universe for sure.
For sentient beings. Yeah.
Because Thomas says that they were going to redesign the world. And he had a plan.
It's all very low key. Like, it's all very. I don't even think the player is supposed to know what's happening.
No.
Because I think this is when I was kind of lost. I felt like I was missing details. I felt like someone was withholding from me. There was secrets.
Yeah, I felt that too. No, I felt that too because I was like, what's happening essentially, and why does Tom? Because it feels like Thomas knows more than we do at this point, very much so, and he doesn't tell us exactly what's going to happen, and the others kind of hint at things, but not really. And it also says Thomas liked the idea of being an architect. He wanted to modify the world to help others. He was sick of these contrived spaces, these intentionally obtuse paths and puzzles. And that I felt that a lot because I often feel like the world isn't really built for me.
Yeah.
The world is built in a way that doesn't really help us sometimes. And I would love to change it in a way to make it more that it like works for other people and not for whoever is in power and has the most money and stuff. And especially as being like a neurodivergent person, it does feel like a lot of intentionally obtuse paths and puzzles and hoops to jump through to get to where you need to be.
Well, and it's to like not feel you need teamwork to do that too, whatever teamwork means for
community.
Yeah, and community doesn't need to be a huge group of people.
No.
You know, it could be another person. So it's just like in the game, you need others to like succeed, and like the importance of seeking support and working together and facing those challenges, whether those be like mental health challenges, physical challenges, work challenges, life challenges, etc.
It's just so important.
Watching the characters' progression from isolation to this community that they've built. With how minimalistic it is so easy to mirror those personal struggles to just through your own journey to recovery. And just the importance of those different types of support systems, because someone's support isn't going to be the same as yours.
Right.
You know, there's everyone needs something different. And that's why it can be harder for more people in this life than other people, because everyone's not built the same, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that so much because I think you talked about it at the very start too, that it's from the very start the game tells you that not one of these can succeed alone. They always need someone else, even though some of them might think they can all do it alone. John. But even John says, I think he has this one moment, like very shortly hereafter, where he says John's massive jumps were dwarfed by Sarah. For the first time in his life, he felt humbled, not as good as someone else. He realized that he wanted to make every AI up there feel as heroic as he had. So even he gets knocked down a peg.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, like I think, like we already said, like community is so important, especially in this age of everyone is only on their devices, and it's easier to just be like in a little bubble with like lots of people, but have this like superficial connection and not this like deep connection. But we really need this. Like,
communities aren't echo chambers. Communities are people who challenge you to and correct you when you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm in my most cherished friendships right now, because I don't think any of my friends are scared to be like, Kat, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Community isn't always people saying like, yeah, you're right, you should have done that. Yeah, if you actually fucked up, community should be like, you're the asshole. You shouldn't have done that. You need to make right, that actually want to see you succeed. So
that's why we have a Thomas on the one hand, we have the hype man, but we also have a Chris. And a Chris who tells you you're being rude if you're not talking to Laura. Like, what the fuck? Hey, we do need those different views and stuff, and we just need that like deeper connection, and we need to realize that there's such a big power in asking for help from our community around us, because we're not designed, and again, this is the game again, we're not designed to be alone. We're not designed to be alone. There's a book Lars and I are reading right now, and it's a wonderful science fiction novel. It's actually a series of like space operas that we're reading, and we're reading the second book right now. And the book is about actually an AI
there you go.
who is in a body kit. And it's actually it's not allowed in this world to be in an eye in a body kit, because they're not supposed to be as humans among us. They're AIs. They're supposed to like operate in ships and so on, but it's not allowed to be in body kits. And they kind of did this like on the down low, and the AI has some humans and stuff with them, but this whole story on the one hand is about this AI learning how to fit in and doesn't really want to fit in and stuff and all of this. But on the other hand, it's also the story of this one human who grew up in a society like on the fringes of this giant system. It's like different solar systems. We have aliens. It's everything. It's so amazing. It's so amazing.
I kind of want to, I want to read those.
Oh, yeah, I can recommend the whole series to you. The first one is called A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. And the second one that we're reading right now, which one is it? Is it The Universe and the World Within? Or is it the other one? There's a couple. Yeah, I forgot the name of that one right now, but if you Google that, and then if you find the author, she's amazing. She has all kinds of amazing stuff out there. But it's about this human girl who grows up in a society of where there's two different classes of humans. There's this one class who's like the ruling class, and there's the other class, which is what she belongs to. They're like made artificially, basically. And they're watched over by the quote-unquote mothers, who are also AIs. And they're just there to recycle scrap, because the planet, the enhanced, quote unquote, they're called the enhanced, the other side of the planet, basically, they don't have enough scrap and fuel and stuff. So the girls who are just made to do that are raised to just sort scrap all day and recycle fuel all day and all that stuff. And the only thing the mothers, because they're really young when we meet her, she's like 10, And it's Jane. It's like Jane 23, Jane 46. You get the stuff, you know? There's like one generation is called one name. But there's this thing is like the mothers, they don't allow them to do much because, I mean, they're basically just workers and there's no adults around. There's no men around, no boys even. It's only the girls. But they all have bunkmates. So they don't sleep alone in a bed. They always have like one other bunkmate, one other Jane with them, because the mother said that human connection is very important to them, apparently. So I thought, even in that world, right, in that awful, shitty universe, even those enhanced groups have figured out we can't have these girl slaves who are just there to sword scrap all day. We can't have them be alone.
It is embedded in our system.
It's so it's incredible. And that's also, wow, wait, okay, the more I think about it now, that's literally what the entire book is about. Oh my god. Please, everyone read this book. Wait, what's the second book called? Hold on. A Close and Common Orbit. That's the second book. Small Angry Planet, Close and Common Orbit, Record of a Spaceborne Few, and Galaxy in the Ground Within. Those are the 4 books of the series. It's called the Wayfarer series.
Okay.
It's gorgeous. Read Close and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. You can read the first book too if you want to. It's really wonderful, but you don't need to read it to understand the second book.
Oh, okay. I like that.
They're all like kind of close stories. There's just hints to each other, and I think the universe is best explained in the first one. So it does make sense to start with it, but you don't necessarily need it to understand. Okay, so yeah, we're not made to be alone. We're made to be connected, and that's, I think, where we come to the end of the second chapter in this game, I will say, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's really, because I have this wonderful quote written down. I don't know if you have it too. It says, Thomas knew he'd never meet Nathan Fillion or a Transformer. He'd never get to visit Gotham City or eat at a movies. It didn't matter. If he and his friends jumped into the creation matrix, they could give everyone else in the simulation a chance to. Which I was like, oh, look at all these references. Oh, look at it.
It's fun when you understand them. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, hey, wait.
Hey.
Oh.
Yay. Yep. They jump into the creation matrix.
Yeah.
They're basically...
And that's one with the matrix.
Yeah. They're stopping their own existence and becoming part of the world around them.
Becoming something bigger.
Yes.
Yeah. They're contributing to something that will help what comes after them.
Yes.
Is from my understanding. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, I think it's also, it says that too in the quote. It says, Thomas and the other architects augmented the world to suit the AIs. Mm-hmm. The splitters kept their distance. The system was never taken control from that point. Thousands of AIs were free to escape. By Hannah Roper, tech correspondent, the London Sentinel. The London Sentinel. I can read. And it also has read shortly after that. We evacuated the facility, cut the network lines, and locked the doors. We knew by that point what was coming, but we had no idea what to expect from Joey Numley, former head of security, Artificial Life Solutions. I thought it was really funny where they were like, we locked the doors. Okay, cool. How is that going to stop it?
Which one? Do they have a key? How are they gonna...
Right? And then we get into this whole group of AIs, which are all gray, because the other ones all had color, right?
Right.
And we get into this gray group, the shifters of AIs.
They're shady.
And then we have those, color, shaded areas of color in the environment, which has the different blues and reds and purples from the characters before, and if they pass through those colors, they absorb the powers that the other characters had. So if you pass through the blue square thing, you become like Claire and can swim in water. They gave up their own existence to become the world, to give them a way to escape,
have a part of all of them to better their circumstances to get out.
Right. And we have like multiple, how would you say, teams now of people, right?
Blocks?
We get like we have like teams of rectangles, because we get introduced to like different people, and especially the infamous Gray. I just wrote down Gray kind of bitch.
Gray lying about being on a quest? Gray is destroying the world.
Yeah. Gray wants to get out first, and Gray really wants to stop things. Gray is also the only one, as far as I'm aware, that is named after a color.
Yeah, you're right.
Who is a color and is sort of like this the real like evil entity overlord. Doesn't want to work with other people, because he does say like he told like some other people like, yeah, totally, I'll work with you, and then he's like, haha, whatever. For instance, I think he dukes one of his friends first, who then tries to like warn other people about him. But he dukes one of them, and then he joins like a different team of people because they're like do things better because they're two.
He's like a leech.
And Gray told the couple that he was looking for a lost friend. He had made something up about being alone on a quest for lost allies. They had eaten it up. So yeah, what a bitch. And then there's the other guy who's like trying to like warn everyone, and there's a team jump. It's just like little four squares. Like it's like 5 squares who like, woo, we're on the jump. We do everything together. And the one guy is like, guys, you got to be careful about Gray. And they're like, team jump, whatever. Come with us.
Team jump, we're too busy.
So yeah, Gray is a bit of an asshole. And he also says like, Gray could tell they were nearing the exit portal. He smiled to himself, trying to work out the easiest way of dispensing with his allies when the time came. And I think this is the first, like, actual evil AI that we meet. Because Chris was a little bit of a bitch, and John too, but they all worked together and they all helped each other. Gray was like, I'm actually gonna actively kill you. I'm gonna kill you.
Actually having sinister thoughts.
Kind of sad, but that's Gray. The very last character that comes in one of the last characters that comes in and narrates, because in the end it goes back to the couple, Joe and Sam. But before that, it's about Gray and the old one, which looks kind of like Sarah, because they're not like, I don't know, maybe I just have a weird like screenshot, but it looks as if they're completely purple. So it looks as if it's Sarah.
Yeah.
But we have a different one that's narrating. It's the Pixel Cloud. Because the Pixel Cloud says, the old one seemed to be leading the liar to an outcropping. It was within her reach. She could remove them both. And that's what she does. The Pixel Cloud comes in and eats them up. And Gray's gone. Goodbye, Gray.
Yeah. So that's why I go back to say, virus. The virus
Pixel Cloud MVP? ? And then at the very end...
Shout out Laura.
Oh, we love Laura. I love Laura. Laura is being bounced on. We love that for her. Anyways, at the very end... Yeah, so I wrote down Pixel Cloud said, no liars. And then, yes, Joe and Sam are the ones that make it out. And at the very end of this game, we have an sort of an outside view of a couple screens in complete darkness. It's really hard to see the outlines of the screens, actually. But you can see, like, them turning on. Like, they start to become, like, white. As if the screens, like, turn on from inside. And then we have the credits. And that's it. I'm getting, like, goosebumps talking about, like, just the screens turning on by themselves. I'm like, oh, this is the start of something new.
And then it's the end.
Oh my gosh.
It's the start of something new, but it's the end.
Yeah, but not really. But also, yes, it is, and also not, because we already know what's going to happen because of all the newspaper clippings.
Yeah.
Of like, which is great. I love the storytelling like this of where you kind of already know the outcome. So I just saw the picture you sent me. I'm dying. Oh my god. It's Kat in as a Shiggy gang person. I love it. No, Shiggy. We call him Shiggy. What is it? Squirtle.
Squirtle.
So in German it's called Shiggy. Shiggy, Shiggy. Shiggy, Shiggy, Shiggy.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it comes from Schildkröte, which is turtle.
Water turtle?
No, land turtle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. It makes total sense. Well, Schildkröte is like the general. We have Wasserschildkröte, which is literally called water turtle. So we don't have tortoise and turtle. We have turtle and water turtle. Anyways, Sam and Joe make it out. So now we have AI. But the game isn't like, it's generally just about friendship and the power of, it's literally the game is like unironically like
the power of friendship.
The journey was the friends we made along the way. That's literally it.
No, really.
And it's true. It's fucking true.
Just with the simplicity of like the visuals and honestly the mechanics, although hard, they're simple. It's not like anything crazy.
Yeah, it's just too hard for me.
I mean, platformers are hard, but like compared to like other shit where you need just like the its ability to invoke just deep empathy towards these characters and just like the tools it proves, it's more than possible gaming can represent all of these diverse experiences, including those like with mental health. Like there's just so much more. And like the game's development of like, how it's the friends we made along the way. You're completely right.
Yeah.
It's just like the therapeutic potential of, I guess, like creative expression, if that makes sense. Just like how it can be a powerful tool for like emotional growth and health awareness. In a way, I think I don't want to, this sounds weird, if you're simple-minded, I don't, what's a better way to say? I don't want to say that. If
you don't
like,
think, if you don't have the creativity to go in deeper, I guess. I don't know.
If you have a hard time,
so essentially what Kat is saying, if you're stupid, you won't get it.
Well, I just like with Thomas Was Alone, and I'm sure other games of course have done this, but it really bridges the themes of gaming and broader social themes effectively. I think it showcases both of those because it's so minimalistic. It's easy to catch those themes. I mean, like even those quotes you were reading, like the AI psychologist, like what does that even mean? Like,
right?
You kind of have to put these pieces together of like there's obviously an AI versus human struggle going on too.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's definitely, if I can see there's also maybe, okay, I can see how maybe for some people it will be harder to get into this game, because if you have a hard time feeling for other things that aren't human, perchance.
I think if you see everything on a surface level and you're just trying to play a game and you want it to be very obvious, like what's happening, I feel like this
just if you want a game that's more obvious, that's a platformer and still has a very powerful and wonderful story, play Ori.
Yeah.
It's not to say Ori is a bad game. Ori is very emotional and amazing.
No, but it's the same thing.
It
really is the same thing.
Yeah.
Though.
But this game does it in 2 hours with minimal graphics, amazing music, I will say. I do like the level creation. I would love it so much more if I'm just not a platformer. I think I'm gonna give this game to my my future sister-in-law, essentially my brother's girlfriend, because she loves platformers. I think she loves
and if
this.
you're a problem solver.
No, I like this too with the puzzles.
It's very much a
I
puzzle
saw
game.
how it could be done. I just couldn't do it. No, I was just not good enough. I had to get good, and not for me today, but I did like it. And I think also talking with you about all these different themes made it a lot more clear, because I had some ideas when I was watching the playthrough, but just already you starting our conversation today with focusing on the teamwork and so on made it a lot more obvious for me in my brain. I was like, yes, duh. Like I wrote it all out. I just didn't see it yet, which that was really wonderful. So I thought that was awesome that we could go into the conversation with that in mind too, because that made it a lot more clear for me too. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I also love how you were, before we started this podcast, this might be a shorter episode, and I know we are going to cut some things out that we talked about in the beginning. I say we, I mean you, but we've been recording for an hour and 45 minutes at this point.
This always happens.
Because this always happens. We just love games. We love talking about games, and like, yeah.
We do. And talking to you, I always find more of like, oh yeah, that happened.
Me too. Right? Like it makes it a lot more clear, and it gives me a different perspective too. It's really nice. I would not have thought about these games and this game in particular as much as if I just played it by myself and stayed with myself. But that's why I also I think I always gravitated to watching people like YouTube playthroughs and stuff, watching people play a game.
Oh, for sure.
So that I could see if they also had the same reaction as me. Because that was really important. Hello, community. We're back to square one. Isn't that interesting? It's why people watch Twitch streamers. Hi.
Oh, it's so true. I'm definitely a person who loves seeing reactions too. Like, the first thing I thought about was I introduced my dad to Game of Thrones, and there were so many instances where I'm like, oh, this is coming up. He doesn't know it's coming up, but it's coming up. One of his favorite characters is gonna die, and he doesn't even know it.
No, that's so true. I'm watching. I need to watch it with her again. I need to ask her when she has time again. But I'm watching Avatar: Last Airbender with a friend right now, and she's never seen the series. So I was like,
so fun.
Oh,
yes. I felt that way when we watched Parks and Rec. I remember we watched Parks and Rec together, and you had never really seen it.
It is very nice.
I remember Wyatt and I, every time a new episode came up, we would be like, oh, this is a great episode. This is the best episode. And then another episode would be like, oh, this is a great episode. This is the best. It's like, okay, Kat, Wyatt, shut up. They're all great. I get it.
No, I love that. I honestly, I really like it.
But when it's someone new, it's so exciting. It's like experiencing it again for the first time.
Yeah. Yep. And then someone might say something you haven't thought of yet, and you're like, oh, whoa.
Right.
That changes everything.
Yeah.
Damn. Perspectives. Almost as if we as humans benefit from different perspectives and are not made to stay within our bubbles and are made to
succumb to echo chambers and
oh
wow.
My gosh. Wow, what a wow. Okay. Oh, yes. I'm so glad that we played the game overall, though. It was not something where when I first started it and when I was playing it myself, I think it was more focused on the gameplay being not meant for me and making me want to throw my Switch on the ground. And in the end, there's actually a lot that I'm taken away from it, and that made me think a lot. And it's really interesting because somehow it does feel like we all just live in a weird simulation, because I literally had a conversation today with my dad about politics and how we need to have those awful and hard conversations with our close loved ones about different views and topics, because otherwise we're not gonna move forward. And it doesn't make sense to just shout into the void of the internet when
you just go into
there's real
circles.
differences. Yeah, exactly. You're just gonna be like, yeah, I think that too. Me too. And then if you see someone that's like, fuck you, which is also not starting an argument, you just block them, right? So we literally talked about this today before I watched the playthrough of the game. And then I watched the playthrough of the game, and now I'm talking with you again. And also, while this is happening, I'm also currently reading the book with Lars about how community is so important and how we're not meant to be alone, and even AIs are not meant to be alone, but they're always meant to be with other people, and they're not built for that, literally. It kind of feels a little bit eerie.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Especially for something that came out
I'm seeing the signs.
12 years ago.
Right?
I mean, even, like, yeah, it's just...
Yep.
The world is changing a lot, but it also it hasn't changed.
No. That's so true.
Yeah.
It's like reading when people talk about students, like the same shit you read about students nowadays. Like, nobody wants to read anymore. It's like already what Aristotle was talking about. Like, students are like misbehaving and they don't want to like learn anymore. Or, like, the workers don't want to work anymore. They're all lazy, as if we've never really wanted to work.
Yeah, right.
Whoa! Crazy concept, I know, right? It almost seems as if we never really wanted to work in the first place. Wow. Crazy. I know. So yeah, the world doesn't change. We need each other, and we're better together. It sounds very, very saucy, but listen, it's also like,
it's true.
a lot of people think like, oh, I'm so special and I'm so unique. Yeah, you're special, you're unique in a way, but you're worth shit. Like, your own specialty is worth shit if you don't have other people to balance you out. You can be kind of like,
and this is Messenger and I balance you out. I just said you're not worth shit, and she's like, you are.
I was gonna say that too. I was also gonna say like, bitch, you're not. We're all the same. But then I was thinking in terms of the game, and I was like, hey, maybe there is something special about you. There's something unique, not special.
There is. So,
let's step away from the special. There's something unique about. Oh, I moved my hands so much, I just got my 10,000 steps. But it's not something unique. Maybe there's something unique to you, because there's like something that is very you about something, right? If you really step into the you that you are, if you let all other things go, which actually you can't really, because also all the other things are important to the you that you are, because they make you the you that you are in terms of relationship to the other. But yeah, like, yeah, you're worth shit. Like, yeah, John might think he can jump all alone, but he can't.
I think a lot of people do comparison outside of their community, like, why am I not as good as this person? When I think you should be looking within your community and be like, how do I help these people that I can directly affect? How do my not powers, how does my influence and my personality and my friendship and my values affect my community, my groups? And because I think with being online now, especially on TikTok, you are so parasocial with all these people, you feel like you are a part of their group and you're not. So it's like sometimes you are looking at you're looking through a perfect lens at somebody's life who is not a part of your group, and you're comparing yourself like, why can I be that, XYZ.
I literally have a parasocial command on my Twitch now. It's literally saying, hey, you might think you know each other, but we don't know each other. And that's okay. We can also form a community like this, but you guys have to keep that in mind, because this is never the whole story. And that's the thing. You guys have to keep this in mind. It doesn't mean like, yes, rare, like things like this, there can be real friendships with online stuff. I mean, heck, like you and I, we were like weird online parasocial friends at some point.
That's true.
I think it's as soon as it becomes like a group dynamic, it's rough. Like as soon as it becomes like this streamer versus audience thing, because they might think you guys know each other, but there's never a way of like having that intimate relationship.
Well, it's also how you interact outside of stream.
Right.
So it's like you and I weren't just interacting
like
whenever you were live with a bunch of other people. We were also hanging out in like like we were in mutual settings together with like a mutual friend, and we would play like Valorant. I'm pretty sure we played Valorant a lot before we were
did.
close friends, and that's just kind of what brought us more together.
For sure. But yeah, there is definitely a thing of that you can. I don't want to. That's the thing. It's a really fine line, because I don't want to demonize the connections that you can have with people online, because sometimes that's
it's just like read the room. I think it's just like it's so much easier said than done.
It's hard though if you're like a teen or a child who's just figuring, even like people like in there might actually like everyone, but especially I feel like for teens it's really hard to figure it out where that line is. And but it is really hard, because you can feel very isolated if you're, for instance, the only gay kid in your neighborhood and everyone else is kind of homophobic, and you just want out, and you find other people online who accept you for who you are and see you. It's really hard to then to understand if they are really...
To separate what's an influencer and what's your actual community and what's your friends.
And that's, like, I try to be very... I try to at least keep it in the forefront. Like, I'll tell people, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that, and, you know, we're, like, here as a community to, like, uplift you and stuff you, but I'm not gonna give you any advice, or I'm not trying to, like...
Well, you're not a therapist. That's not your obligation.
Exactly. So yeah.
But I'm so happy I got to talk to you. I've missed this.
Too.
It's been so hectic.
Too. Oh, I mean, yeah. Tell me about it. There's so many things that happened in between these things, and I do have a feeling, because we usually seem to be more busy in the summer than in the winter. So perhaps potentially we can get another recording done fast, but I also don't want to promise anything. So
I was even thinking maybe have a guest on. We could probably have another guest on or something.
We have to see who we can rope into this fast. I know we have a couple people that we have in mind. I do, however, maybe before we have a guest on, because I have a game that I want us to play, and I think it wasn't a guest rec yet. So
okay. Yeah, for sure.
And then I can seek out for the one. I mean, after that, we might even have a very special guest for the one after that. We don't. We're working. I'm not gonna say what it is, but there is something really cool happening.
To be
soon.
Continued. Stay tuned.
But that is a little bit of like when things are getting recorded versus when it comes out kind of thing. So we're gonna stay on that. But I'm gonna reach out to some people and see if we can talk to them, because there's a couple that we have talked to in the past that have recommended some games, and I think we can. I mean, I have a list. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna ask some people they want to talk. If you have someone too, they can reach out. First of all, though, I think the most important part, what everyone has been waiting for, who's still listening. Also, by the way, thank you, you amazing human. Kat. Out of
yes, ma'am.
Out of 10 pixel clouds, how many pixel clouds do you rank Thomas Was Alone, and why?
I think I'll give Thomas maybe a 7.5. Overall, I would say it's the overall powerful tools for like emotional growth. Just the many different experiences and how it evokes empathy, and just how it's minimalistic. I think those are all very powerful tools that it does well on. Gameplay wise, I think I take my points off for like gameplay wise. This is why we need to work on this ranking system. I think a lot of how difficult the platforming is can make you forget about the story.
Right.
I think it can get in the way, and it can make you forget some things, like you bringing up the text in between each like level almost, like with the quotes. I almost like completely forgot about all of those, and I'm glad you wrote them down, because you reminded me of them. So it's just there's with how difficult the gameplay is and how repetitive it is. I think that's where it loses points, because you can forget all of that build up.
I actually, interestingly, because I was watching a YouTube video someone who was playing it, and I read that in the comments too. There was someone who was like, "Oh my gosh, I think I finally get the story, and I feel so much more connected to all these characters now that I'm watching it versus then when how I was feeling when I was playing it." And it had a lot of likes too, so it wasn't the only person. You're definitely not the only person who feels that.
Yeah. It's definitely one where you should try to play and then maybe watch it, or play it and then watch a gameplay of it so you can actually decompress.
Yeah. Unless you're like just a really good platformer. And I do see how the hard gameplay is important to visualize the struggle or whatever. I wish there was like an easy story mode almost, but I also see how that is impossible because then you wouldn't need the different abilities. I don't know. I understand it, and I also feel with you too.
No, definitely. What is your ranking system out of how many team jumpers?
Team jump.
How many team jump? Team jump, we're on the jump.
I think I was going into the same direction, giving it like a 7.5, almost exactly too. I was also between like 7 and 8. I was like, oh, you said 7.5, so I'm gonna say 7.5 as well. Exactly for the same reasons. One, the story I think is very meaningful and stuff. Yeah, sure. It is, of course, it's things that we've also been like, yeah, we talked about this. Like, yeah, we were going to talk about this, but it is still very important to talk about.
Yeah.
So it needs to be rather simplistic to get the point across. And even then, I guess it does get lost on some people. So I think it isn't overly simplistic. It still works out nice, and you feel like you're solving a little riddle when you're watching it.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, it definitely got knocked down for me for the struggles of the gameplay, because I would not have, like, I didn't complete this game. I don't think if we wouldn't have discussed it on the podcast, if we weren't set on discussing it, I probably would have never watched the playthrough either. So I would have never seen how important the story actually is.
That's why we do this. Because
oh my god.
That's what podcast about.
But I just feel like it's really sad for all those people who would be me without the podcast, who would try to play this game and then be like, what the fuck is this? And nope, I guess I'm not doing that, and just never touch it again and not seek out a playthrough, because why would they, right? So that definitely knocks it down a little bit for me too.
Like, I felt that same way about Beginner's Guide when I first played it, and I was like, this is stupid, like, I don't get it. And then I gave it another try, and it is probably it is such a game that impacted me when I was 18, I think. I forget how old I was. I was younger. And it really, I don't even know it had such a profound, like, I mean, when you're a teenager, it's like, oh my god, like, that is mind-blowing to me. Like, I don't know why Beginner's Guide had just go listen to that episode if you want, but you play the game. But I love Beginner's Guide. It is very psychological, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's
that's why I love this podcast, because I get to experience more games from you that I would have never.
Same. I mean, I got this from you.
Tried.
You recommended that we play this, and I don't think I would have never, because I'm not a platformer. We learned that, and I would have lost on this very beautiful story that actually eerily, weirdly fits into my life right now very much, which I'm still thinking about, and I'm gonna think about that tonight when I try to go to sleep.
I'm kind of happy. Yay. Because I really like I had never played Thomas Was Alone either, but I was just kind of reading it, and I've seen a few gameplay of it, and it just seemed interesting. And just with all of the AI happening now, like, that was really what drew me towards, we should play this next, was how much AI was being spoken about. And I saw this comment in like Steam comments, something that also drew me to it was a review said, I never knew I could get so emotional over different colored blocks.
Aww.
And I was like, okay, I have to. We gotta play it now.
Yep.
Like that comment really, like, okay.
That makes sense.
We'll see how it goes.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, I mean, pretty good rating. 7.5 is a good one, I'll say. And definitely can recommend you picking up. You're probably better platformers than we are, so I assume you guys are going to have more fun with the gameplay too.
Mm-hmm.
If not, there's a really nice YouTube playthrough that is not commented on. You can just watch the game. It's really nice. The person even waits until the dialogues is finished, until going into the next chapter. Pretty good. Thank you so much, person. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna link it down here because I feel like they're worth. Yeah, we're gonna link it. Kat, I had so much fun playing this game with you. Not playing it, discussing it. Well, technically playing it in our brains because we didn't actually play it because we're not too good with it. But
all of it. It
was so nice, and I hoped everyone really liked this and now wants to maybe talk about it and maybe play it as well. And maybe give us a nice little comment on YouTube or on Spotify, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. We also now have a Steam page where you can find curated lists of all the games that we played for the podcast with the added YouTube video to it and our rankings too. So if you would just want to find somewhere... if you want to find a game that we ranked,
easily go find the games we talk about.
You can just find it there. It's all linked there.
Suggest us new games.
Yeah, please. There's a discussion page and everything.
We'd love to see you join.
Please do. It's really easy to reach out there, and you can all also start connecting with each other. You can all talk with each other.
Form community.
Parasocial.
Don't be alone.
No, sorry. No, but yeah, you can. I mean, it's fine. Form a little community. Talk about games. Not everything needs to be harmful, right? So do that.
No.
And
no.
We wish you a wonderful rest of your evening / day / morning. Maybe middle of the night. Who knows? Little night owl there. I see you.
All right, Messenger. I have a question.
Yeah.
What are we playing next?
Okay, so I was thinking about it. So we just had a platformer. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't give you another platformer. And it would be another platformer that I hadn't played. But there is another game which I want us to talk about. And I think I'm really in between. I'm really, really torn between but I think just because we just had a platformer, I'm not going to go into the platformer. So I'm going to pick the other game. It's a story game. It's nice, short, succinct. It's called What Remains of Edith Finch.
Oh, I've heard of it. I have not seen anything for it though.
This game made me cry. This made me bawl my eyes out. This still gives me some nightmares. There's some heavy trigger warnings with it, so I'll just check them out before playing it. But it is so special to me, and I wish I could play it again for the very first time, and I was so lucky nobody spoiled it for me. It's so nice. I will say I hope that the online community on Twitch is good with spoilers. They didn't spoil it for me, but it is also very nice to figure it out for yourself, because there's some people who just get a little bit overeager, I will say. So
for sure,
it is definitely one of those games, if you just want to sit with it, it's definitely better to just sit in a room by yourself and just play it, because it is very enjoyable that way, I will say. And I was just lucky that I forgot that chat existed sometimes, because they would have definitely... Sorry, chat, I love you, but you'll sometimes ruin things if it's about these things.
True.
You don't even want to. You just want to share in the moment. I totally get that. But yeah, it's a very nice game. So I want you to play What Remains of Edith Finch.
I am excited.
It's also very
I can't wait.
Autumn. I don't know. It feels like autumn vibes every time I play it. So it fits.
It does have this very warm aesthetic to it.
Mm-hmm. It does fit, definitely. So I
looking at the photos, yeah.
I'm very interested in what you make of it, and I can't wait to discuss it with you, because I've been
very excited.
wanting to discuss this game with you for a while. And I really want to replay it too, because I've been meaning to replay it for a while too, for just myself. So I'm really excited to do that too. It's like 2-3-ish hours long, maybe 4. So it's not too long, but it's wonderful. It's perfect. Yep. All right. I love you, Kat.
I love you too.
I love you, Kate. I want you to have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll talk to you
too, girl.
next episode. Okay.
Bye. I love you guys.
Bye. Bye.